Gabriel is an artist living in Berlin, and since 2023, he's part of the leadership team at the School of Commons at Zurich University of the Arts. His work has been presented online and offline in museums, biennials, galleries, film festivals, residencies, and public spaces. Ashlee is a curator from Vancouver, Canada, and this is the second project that she's done with Gabriel, and in 2021 they led a workshop here together at GlogauAIR, so it's great to have you guys back. I wasn't here at that time, but I'm super excited to see your research. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Susie.
Do you need more lights off or anything, or is that later?
Yeah, maybe in a second when we screen videos, it's good to switch that light off in the back. And
they're going to take this light off.
Yeah, it's helpful. No, I'm very thankful for being here in a space where artists live together and kind of can learn from each other, because that is the main thing I'm interested in with this project. We present today exercises for the digital age. And maybe we start with a little introduction video. It's 4 minutes that describes a little bit the project, and then afterwards I can give a little bit insights about the process and how it came about.
Hey, are we all now ready?
Yeah, I'll just make a clap.
So we wanted to talk about how to make an intro video.
Or how to just make a video at all.
And I think while we do this, we can just doodle. It can be a mindless doodling while we talk.
The question is, if you were to isolate it down to describe the project in 4 sentences. I met with artists. We drew together just as a free doodling exercise with no real intention. We figured out exercises based on those doodles about digital survival and thrival. And then from that point, we made tutorial videos on how to do those exercises for you.
Hi, and welcome to our channel, Exercises for the Digital Age. I don't know, but what do you think about this beginning? It's very long,
Yeah, it's still way too long. We need to cut.
Exercises for the digital age. This channel features videos that hopefully help you to survive and thrive in life on the internet.
The other question is, Gabriel, is this project the means by which you are digitally surviving and thriving?
Wow, someone goes talk to me. So I'm an artist, and I interviewed more than 20 artists from all around the world who are in one way or the other concerned with the digital. And I was asking them what they do to stay physically and mentally healthy, how they use these technologies to increase their freedom, or how they use that in their work. And I was also wondering if there is maybe something that gets lost. So while talking with them, we had a 2 hours online conversation. There was a non-verbal communication going on through drawing. And this kind of mindless scribbling is what we did together while talking about these big questions. And at the end of each interview, we designed a small exercise based on their practice that we want to share with you in this channel. So I invited Ashlee Conery, a curator from Vancouver, to co-produce these exercise videos that teach you how to breathe with a tree, for example, or how to digitize a tree, how you can smell the digital, or how you can take care or stay aware of your body while you're on the screen, and maybe even how you stay aware of the space behind you while you're online. I hope you join fitness program for digital survival and thrival, and to see you soon.
Say it
Yeah, subscribe, yeah, subscribe, yeah, doodle, yeah, subscribe, yeah, subscribe.
Yeah, it's still way too long. Like, we need to cut.
Yeah, subscribe, doodle, yeah, subscribe,
Yeah, it's still way too long. Like, we need to cut.
yeah, subscribe.
Yeah, maybe before I start, obviously it's a collective effort we're doing, and I want to just mention 3 other people who can't be here with us today because the entire team is spread over the world. It's a big pleasure to sit here in one room with Ashlee because, as we heard in the beginning, she sits usually in Canada, I'm in Berlin, and then our editor sits in Zagreb in Croatia, and our sound is, so Dennis Golenia is the editor, and Becky Brown does work with the sound from the US. And of course, in speaking about the videos, we kind of sometimes exchange roles and we conceptualize these things together. So that's been said, I can maybe start talking a little bit about how that whole project started. And when we're thinking about the internet, I feel the beauty of it is that no matter what you are working on as an artist, you can go online and you can be sure you find someone out there who works on a similar thing. And instead of, well, not instead, but so my feeling was, why not just going over or like contacting them and learn and collaborate, and because I feel a lot of artists are concerned with the same thing, so I'm curious what happens if they join forces. And so I worked on a method for artists to co-create, for peer learning between artists, and to also just have fun creating something together. And this method is based on an activity that probably most of you know. And this is when you maybe slightly bored, I hope not now yet, but like that you start scribbling or like make little doodles on the edge of your paper. I did it when I was, when we still had these telephones, sat in the corridor and kind of, or at school, I don't know. So these kind of mindless, drawings. I'm repeating what was actually in the video. I'm sorry for that. But I think you got the process, I hope. So based on that, I used this drawing as a conversational tool for the online space. So I would meet with artists that I feel are relevant for the question of how to survive and thrive in a digital age. And the last interview I did was with an artist called Björn Melhus. And those of you who know his work, Björn Melhus, I think since more than 20 years, works with video and does actually what we see today on TikTok. And this is taking audio, like voices from other videos, and kind of samples that or makes the imagery for that with himself as a figure in it. And so the process starts by me sending him a letter and inviting him for a 2 hours Zoom call. And that looks then like this, that we have a shared whiteboard. And the first thing is I kind of show him the pen tool and invite him to have this doodling process, but not as, usually this is a very intimate thing you do just for yourself, and maybe you're slightly embarrassed to even show it because it doesn't make sense, right? But so I was wondering what happens if we do this together, and the online space, of course, offers this thing that you can cross over or you can continue a doodle that someone else is doing. And this opens up a kind of a for me at least, a playfulness and openness to really dive directly into these big questions of how to survive and thrive in the digital age. And then towards the end of this conversation, so we would really wander all around, and it's very associative thinking. We would come up with a little exercise that then we produce videos on that we will also see today. And maybe can make, because I started now already to talk about Björn Melhus. So the exercise we came up with, and this is maybe the interesting point, is I'm interested in this moment of when two people come together and they come up with something that none of them could come up alone. So, and this exercise here that came out of that conversation is, but it's kind of rooted also to his practice, is like drink the voice and spit it out. So it goes like, find a voice, remove the image, drink the voice, become the voice, dress like the voice, and then here's like wildest fantasy, so you can go wild with that, and then spit it out. And if you see his videos, you kind of understand where this practice comes from, and I feel for the person who does these exercises, it's very interesting in terms of you don't see just the finished product of the artist, but you kind of have the chance to even practice a part of their process, which adds another layer to how we can learn from artists, I feel. And one exercise that I found very useful emerged with the artists Yin Mi Yoon, Peter Morin, and Ayumi Goto. And you see here there was a process of thinking together. The exercise is called How to Take Care of the Ghosts of Tastes. Obviously they're absent in the digital sphere. At the beginning and end of a virtual meeting, bring your nose as close to the camera as possible. You can even touch it, and then you shake it to say hello or goodbye. And it sounds now very silly and a small thing, but as we heard in the beginning, I work also for that space, for the School of Commons, where artists from all around come together to learn from each other. And of course, in this moment of our history, we have very hard conversations. And sometimes I feel even like the bridges between artists are endangered, but that's now a whole different topic. But then still, with this kind of ritual and kind of come together and we wiggle our nose, there's something happening there that kind of I feel very valuable for that conversations online. Yeah, and with that, to have not a too long monologue, I would say let's watch some more videos.
How to breathe with a tree. Step number 1. Choose a tree that's bigger than you and look at it from afar. Does the tree has many branches? What is the color of its leaves? Step number 2. Move your body closer to the trees, so close that you can even touch it. And look at the detail of the trees. Look at the trunk. How do you feel about the fact that it's bigger than you? What is the color of the tree skin? Step number 3. What do you feel is special about this tree? How is this connected to you? Step number 4. When will the trees bloom? What size and color will it be? Will it bloom at the same time like all the trees? When will this tree lose its leaf? Step 5. What would you do with the tree? Or what the tree do with you? Step 6. Imagine the tree is looking back at you. What is the tree thinking, feeling about you?
Welcome to this tourist tour to the web. Before we start, you should know that you might...
To the web or through the web? I did not hear through. What do you should say?
To.
To, okay. To the web, okay.
Tourist tour on the web. Bringing people to websites. Create your personal tour and share it with other people.
Welcome to this tourist web tour. Here we start already with our problems. Okay.
Become a professional. What is the history of the place? What would be the tour Eiffel of the websites right now? Where is the beautiful hidden beach that nobody knows?
Welcome to this tour to the web.
Welcome to this tourist tour to the web. Before we start, I need to tell you that you might being watched while you watch things. And if you want to find out who is after you, you can enter a website you frequently visit here. Ooh, 4 ad trackers found on this website and 3 third-party cookies. Can you believe that? Unfortunately, there is not only watching going on, there's also stealing going on. So if you want to know who has your data, you can enter your email address here. And found shit. Okay, in April 2018 by Artsy. Okay, this guy called Kenneth Goldsmith collects treasure since 1996. And if you're interested in avant-garde art, film, sound, dance, whatever, you find it all here. Okay, if you are now inspired by becoming or making your own archive or becoming a librarian, you can join the team on this website made by Marcel and Tomislav. They dream of a world where everyone is a librarian and the library is everywhere. I want to quickly just show you the books here, and you can download all these books. The question is, by all this collecting of data, what is missing? And this artist here, Mimi, she made a project called the Library of Missing Datasets. And when you look at this list here, you find out some quite interesting things. Okay, let's watch some more windows. On this website, people share their views from their window. That looks like Paris, I guess. And if you want to make these windows more colorful, our friend James shows us how. If you go on his website and you copy this link, you can go to any website you want, hit the right click, inspection, console, and you copy paste the link you copied before, and boom. Thank you so much for joining this tour, and if you want, make a tour yourself and send us a link. Thank you, bye.
Welcome to this tour to the web.
So I don't know if we need to turn the lights back on because we'll watch more videos after this, but one of the things that you might recognize, or maybe not, I don't know how much you hang out on YouTube, but the videos are also supposed to be a little bit familiar. And the original grant was actually for a publication, but at the time during COVID, we were talking about how really the future publication is maybe YouTube. and that these very familiar and very popularized formats of how-to videos or gamers who you observe doing a game or ASMR, these are potentially like novel formats, right? They're ways in which stories are being told to you. And so we adopted some of the most popularized formats on streaming services like YouTube to think about how to deliver these exercises. So each one makes references to video art history, which Gabriel's really interested in, to some of these YouTube formats, to the knowledge base of like Dennis, who's a video editor, but I mean, he's also editing like, You've Got Talent of Croatia, like someone with a very diverse editing practice, a sound-based artist out of the US who also works for NPR and has like a background in both sound music, like sound art music, dissonant sound, as well as the news. Myself, my practice is really about curatorial relationships that are more reciprocal, and my body as a professional body that I lend out to artists to give me scripts or outfits to deliver the message of what their art is, instead of the regular curatorial relationship of a curator imposing an idea of what art means and delivering those on walls. How can that relationship be a more reciprocal one? So in the case of this particular project, right, you often see me in the background kind of doing what he does. So he's really, you know, the equivalent of maybe the teacher in the exercise video, and I'm the equivalent of the person in the background who like shows you alternative options for doing the same position. And so those are the relationships that we take on in some of these spaces, and how they kind of hold familiarity and are also a little opaque, like all of these complexities are there, and we'll talk about that some more after more videos. Unless, you know, I want to say like right now, I think talks should be more interactive. So does anyone have any questions now before we move on to the discussion part after those videos? Yeah, great.
Is this like on a YouTube channel?
It is.
So I can access this?
You can,
Because
yes.
I am interested in going back to that last video and looking up those websites, but I don't catch it all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's called Exercises for a Digital Age. So if you type that into YouTube, you'll find our channel. Also, we both Instagram a lot about this project, so you can find links there. It will also be on another streaming service that I helped develop for the arts called Q Commons, but you can definitely always find it on YouTube. Any other questions? Okay, maybe we'll watch one videos.
Yeah, so we have 2 more videos to share for today, and then we can open the discussion.
Make work physical. For example, by standing while you work. Get your body involved, even though you're working with your brain, maybe.
Stand with your feet shoulder wide. Bend your knees slightly. Move your navel towards your spine. Let your shoulders move down away from the ears.
Something with the nose. Breathing in the digital. Pick a piece of digital. An image, a video, email, social media post, sound, etc. Let it face you. And then inhale and breathe it in. Sense, picture, imagine, feel or fake its smell. Is it sweet, sharp, metal, like a desert, or like your grandma?
So, yeah. So I mean, I'm somebody who likes being in dark spaces. So maybe as a show of hands, how many people love being in dark spaces, and how many people really wish a light was turned on right now? So hands for light, hands for dark. Okay. Yeah, I think that institutional spaces should be made kinder for people who love the dark. So
maybe we can
this is
open
perfect.
Maybe we can open a bit of that window. Just a little. A bit more. Come on. Make a compromise. A bit. Good.
So as the sort of curatorial body, I feel much more comfortable in a writing space. So when Gabriel asked if I'd put together some reflection thoughts and then maybe open up a discussion between us, I chose, we've had many conversations, and I chose to take down some of those ideas and maybe put them into a larger, denser idea that then will spin into a conversation between each other. So I hope you don't mind, but I'm not going to look at you. I'm probably going to look mostly at my book. So recently I've become really involved with artists in a new generation of new media. And a lot of those artists, what I'm finding, actually iterate on their work based on a principle of UX design. So making work and then taking it into spaces like parties or alternative exhibition spaces like YouTube, and testing how audiences interact with them, like them, or use them, and then iterating on their art so that it's literally a direct relationship between them and their audience, which is something that's quite different from previous generations of artists who simply output and then allow the audience to have their experience, but there's literal exchange that happens there. And when I told Gabriel about this idea, he made a really good point about the difference between this and that, in that though kind of iteration may occur between two artists as they draw and produce together, that interaction is something that happens within that space, and there's no optimization. Neither artist is optimizing that practice to better benefit the other artist, neither is that practice optimized afterwards. But then when I went away and thought about that, it's interesting because you can think of video as an optimization of the transmission of information. So previously we transmit information with only the written word, which we also highlight in these videos, kind of making reference to the transmission of information, starting with the handwritten word and now ending in a place of the video. And is video in fact an optimization to the transmission of knowledge? Is it easier to understand something through this format or through the written format? Are we successfully demonstrating how to do these practices or creating any kind of movement around them? And Gabriel has said also to me in many conversations, and I'm referring to him now so he's not sitting here, but that the two main intentions behind the material outputs of this project are drawing and video. And the intention behind the drawing was really a method that was just an excuse to come together and a way to connect with other artists and explore intimacy online. And the video, alternatively, has the intention of just simply being a way to transmit the many layers behind these exercises and the material itself. And those layers are sort of what we described in terms of being a reference to the history of video art, being a reference to the popularized modes of how-to videos and with me videos on the internet, as well as being about surviving and thriving on the internet. And surviving and thriving on the internet as a description also signals that within them, they hold fear and hope. Can we survive on the internet, and can we thrive there? And the popularity of hashtag #HowTo and with me were the largest number of videos created during the COVID pandemic. Everyone around the world sat online and wanted to either fix tiny problems within their lives, learn new skills, or make something with somebody else. And this expresses a shared desire to fix things, to have some sense of control over the problems or challenges that we all face, and to address them together. How-to videos, however, also frame the fact or frame problems in isolation, that a single problem can have a single solution, and that in this endless pool of single solutions on YouTube, we can endlessly try to fix things. This is where the layers of collaboration that are explored within the exercises for the digital age becomes interesting, because they also are not only references to all the things I've outlined, but they also create an intentional complexity. They're not so easy to follow. They don't so easily solve a single problem or give you a direct solution to surviving and thriving on the internet. In some ways, and these are really the words of Gabriel, not me, they also point to the complexity of problems themselves. But it was very important to him that they do not end up in hopelessness, that they don't simply gesture towards the fact that it's impossible to fix this, to have one single answer. And that by bringing artist practices into the familiarized forms of how-to, that we also create hope, that we acknowledge and never become ironic around YouTube videos, that instead we acknowledge complexity, and that we create the potential that in the same digital space you can hold both hope and complexity. And so with that, I think I I only mean to say all those big words that the project itself may appear, only to be visual material made by a visual artist, or maybe it appears as only funny exercise videos or use of humor to talk about bigger issues. But it's kind of all of those things at the same time. And we want it to be that way. So maybe, do you want to expand on any of those ideas which were your own, or how maybe do you want to talk about that complexity which for you is the birth of the project?
Yeah, well, thank you for that context. Yeah, I think what I started with in the beginning is that if we, let's say, acknowledge there's not such a thing in isolation, maybe there's also not an artist in isolation, that I had always this feeling, or like the question, like how to learn together with other artists, especially when there's also now new places. I mean, this institution here started an online residency during the pandemic, and they kept it because it makes sense for those artists who can't travel for reasons. And now, okay, but how do you create that intimate like space or the magic that happens when you're in an artist residency? And this is kind of hanging out together, and in these informal spaces is usually where the magic happens, due to my experience. And once you meet online in a confined space, how do you make that happen? And I think one realization that I think we can all observe when we have a conversation with someone is that each conversation is never just about conveying information. I mean, there's so many layers going on, and it's about so many things when you have a conversation with someone at the same time, conscious or unconscious. And I think what I mean is, just to illustrate is, because before this we had a little workshop here with the artists who are currently resident here, or artists in residence here. And we did the same thing, just in a shorter form. And so they were drawing while they interviewed each other. And one conversation looks like that, okay? And another one looks like this. And this one, we had some latecomers, so there was it was meant for 2 people, but then others came in, so and some stood up, and I feel you can see it. I don't know, it has a different concentration than that. So, okay, to bring it back to what you said is, I feel, this question of the UX design as an artist production, so that you do something, you test it with the audience, and you bring it back, you improve it. This is not something what is happening here because I set this 2-hour frame. It has also to do with some kind of concept. I don't want to be extractive in this practice, so I think due to the BBK, like an artist organization in Berlin, they say an artist in Germany should be paid 50 euros per hour. So I say, okay, you don't need to prepare and you don't have work after. You give me 2 hours of your time, so you get 100 euros. And that is also why we really sit just these 2 hours, and we have a conversation, and the exercise that comes out, or we arrive, we make like a cut after this conversation. We don't improve it. And in a way, all these drawings that you also saw partly in the video are kind of a homage to this encounter. And to the joy and to pleasure also of going wild together and inventing something that you feel maybe saved the world and maybe not. Yeah.
And we also have talked a lot about intimacy, right? And a lot of your work has explored how to create intimacy, how to manufacture in some ways or methodically create intimacy between people. And then, this for me was quite amazing today, because yesterday when we did an online workshop with the online residents, we started to talk about how, like, do you really ever meet a stranger and then like start reaching over their body and drawing over their drawings? It never happens. And so who does that happen with? And it happens pretty much only with children who are maybe drawing on a wall together and reaching a level of total shamelessness that they begin to draw over top of each other. So when this happened, it was really amazing, right? Because these two people achieved a total level of intimacy that they allowed each other to draw over one another without actually really knowing each other that well, or I believe ever having made art together before. And I really predicted that today nobody would do this. So I don't know what parts. Yeah, no, you go. I was just going to ask you what parts of your method were for intimacy, but you take.
No, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I just want to say, for me, it was like that. I did a lot of these shared drawings in the online space, and today, first time here in physical space to see where is actually the difference. And for me, it was like that. So my partner was drawing on one corner of the paper and I on the other. And I really had to be brave and go over there, and take, because you don't know each other, you don't do that, it feels weird. Whereas in the online space, it didn't take much to do that. And a lot of times we have these conversations, people see just the downside of being digital together. They say, oh, it's missing this, it's missing that, it's not the same, and I totally agree. But with this project, I think I was also curious to find where are the spaces that are actually work better there, or where is actually a potential of connection of that form of maybe, I don't know, another form of intimacy that can happen online.
Yeah, and I think I didn't end the way I meant to, which was that, like, I actually think people are more intimate online when they draw together. Like, I was really expecting the magic that had happened there of people co-producing to not exist in the physical. So I think that the idea that we've lost connection by being on the internet is maybe not entirely true. And this project has really, for me, showed that what we think we are losing, what we've determined is all the greatest flaw of the internet, is maybe not true of all formats in the internet. Now, that's not to say that's not hugely problematic, but it was fascinating to watch the willingness of people to draw over each other, to talk more freely about their feelings, to get creative in ways that I've never seen artists do physically.
But what stood out for me to now also give you, of course, the other side is, we asked them to come up with an exercise that helps you to survive, but also thrive in the digital age. So to say tools or things they use to actually increase their freedom, to put it very simple, so that they get more out of it than they put in. And almost each single exercise that emerged today in these conversations was more a form of defense. So it was not proactive. So that is for me almost a bit the depressing or sad part of it. What it reveals is that even artists that work, today we had wide mix of selection. Not everyone who is here in residence works primarily with the digital, but also those feel kind of that there's also a big threat there. And it is, it just seems so obvious. I don't know, or a bit, But just this is what I observed, what I didn't expect to happen.
And the larger social question that comes up for me around that is that, we talk a lot, we've had other conversations outside this project around the fact that news media largely uses fear-based language to create hype around realities, right? And we have all these artists who are producing work to point to that in news media and to point to what it's doing to us socially. And then yet most of the creative work I see is apocalyptic. VR experiences where they're showing me the world when humans are gone and everything has disintegrated, or the total, lack of resources and things falling apart. And it seems as though a lot of art is actually also continuing the path of fear-based learning and teaching and considering. There's very few people looking at it through a hopeful lens or a propositional lens of possible futures that are about us finding a way. And that's not to say that's because I believe that that's true, or I'm, what's the word, sort of like blindly believing in some future. I think that what's interesting though is that we create this vibe that then leaks into everything we do. It's the sort of defense mechanism that becomes a part of our social way of being and thinking and creating. It's like everywhere now. Every fear is at the base of everything. Do you want to say more? Anyone else have thoughts on all that? Yeah.
I want to hear more.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot of thoughts, and also like, please say whatever you like. You can even totally question this and argue us. We actually kind of expected people would argue us today, so you're welcome to say whatever you like. Has anyone been to the channel? Does anyone know what they were going to see today?
You also showed it, the images, like these. Did you share them as well? Or is it only the exercises that you share on the channel?
Yeah, I had one installation. I mean, it was not my intention. Okay, let's put it the other way. I felt it for the artists to really freely doodle. It's hard when they know, oh, this will be exhibited. So it was truly not my intention in the beginning. But then when I saw what comes out, I thought, wow, this is actually amazing. So what I did is I asked them, would you agree to afterwards to show this? Because I really feel it's such a nice imagery of all these layers of that a conversation can have. And I showed it once as kind of Calder-like mobile. So they were like I think 150 by 80 hanging in a big space, and you could walk around, and they were moving. So I felt this kind of movement of this shows the dynamic of this. Yeah.
But no, they're not on the channel.
They're not on the channel.
Yeah.
This is it's now mainly for you. This was, for example, with the Omsk Social Club.
Also, Lydia has a question.
Yeah.
I think you were talking about this sort of dystopic view of being online or spending time in digital spaces, and just a reflection I've had recently that has amplified my discomfort in digital spaces is first of all, like how capitalistic and corporate the internet has become. It's not pleasurable anymore. There doesn't feel like a sense of community in the same way that there was. And even like on your screen, you're getting that pop-up that's like, there's not enough room in your iPhone. And it's like, I'm in Canada, and we don't get the same thing that happens here, where you have to accept all cookies, reject all cookies. So I'm not used to it, and it's really like annoying to always have to be, deciding before you can access something enriching or joyful or difficult, but like there's so many barriers to internet experience that's something that I've really been thinking about lately, and it's really taken a lot of the joy out of spending time on my phone, even though I'm more addicted than ever. Like I know it's less dystopic, or it's like the dystopia is just so boring. Like it's so comfort. It's not like the world's burning down. I mean, not that the world's burning down, but it's a very strange feeling. And anyway, I wonder if you guys have thoughts on the corporatization of.
I have so many thoughts, but it's related to a totally different project. So I feel like, yeah, do you have thoughts?
And Yeah, I mean, I'm of course like you. I have this project. I have my experience from that, and I feel this is the space I can speak from. But of course, I also read a lot and I learn a lot, and I look at other people's thoughts. So maybe one thing I now mirror back to you is not my thought. It's just what I heard, but felt to me true, is that the first moment when AI hit the wider part of population is in the very simple curatorial kind of algorithms that decide what to show you next to keep your nervous system involved. And then we kind of scroll even though we don't want to. And of course, me as an artist, I feel this is so my biggest, I think, asset or capacity is to be curious about something, to be affected by something, to be touched by something. And I feel this gets exploited, which makes me, this is my personal thing, very angry. And what is their prognosis is that the second wave of AI that will hit us doesn't want just to grab our attention, but will start an intimate relationship with us. So an example, Snapchat has started to integrate GPT in their chat function. So little kids now, when their friends go to sleep, they can still chat with the AI. And that is, of course, it's a different thing of just curating and showing you stuff than generating stuff that engages with you. So that's why, I mean, my interest in intimacy is, of course, also personal, but it's also, I feel, yeah, we also need to practice that amongst each other, find the others in a way. I mean, that's, in a way, one message of this is like, you work on something, and what's beautiful about the internet, I come back to this, it's like you can find the others, you can actually talk to the others way easier than before that time of the digital. So I see both. There is this, on the horizon coming, this kind of, intimacy will be a thing, I feel. I don't know. In terms of, or like relation.
Yeah, there's an artist that I met who is making humanized AI bots. And when we did a talk, she said to me that the thing she's the most afraid of is humanized AI bots. And I was like, okay. And she was talking, she gave me a statistic that I'm not going to perfectly remember now, but it was something in the range of like 80% of people are more likely to give away their name, their home address, their phone number, and other intimate details about themselves to a humanized AI bot than they are to a real person in a robocall situation. So humanized AI bots are like the biggest, most scariest thing in terms of companies calling you and asking for your personal information, because for some reason, the way that they're optimized, we are far more likely to respond to them. I don't know why, but it's apparently true. And so she's using the same tech to make these humanized AI bots that are going to predict your future. So you sit in a room with them and they ask you a few questions, and then they're kind of, in many ways, appropriating various stereotypes about fortune tellers over time through various cultures, and then this bot is predicting your future. And what's really shocking is that they usually say things that are kind of a little dead on, but we also read the astrology section of the newspaper, and most of us find something that kind of sounds like it's us. So to what extent that's mentally just we're prepared to be ready to believe what it tells us, I don't know. But what I think is interesting about this, right, is that she's making this work because she doesn't want corporations to be the only people with their hands on this technology. And because artists, for her, have a very important role in ensuring that people don't just become afraid of technology, reject it, and not see any of the other potential that exists there for creative relationships. And she puts her bots into parties and things like that. And she says for, tech geeks like herself, I use that as a loving term, she can't talk to people at parties, that this AI bot actually becomes a method for her and other people to connect and become friends. And so her artworks are for her a way to create human connection in physical spaces. So, I mean, that was a very long answer to say that, like, I really feel the corporate thing you feel. But my big fear is that so much fear is generated around that we don't see how the tech isn't innately bad. It isn't innately corporate. That there's so much there that's possible. I'm also a web developer. And that we can't just allow what they're telling us to be the only way that we see tech. There's more there. Yeah. Does anyone else have? I think you had your hand up right now. Any other thoughts, concerns? Oh yeah.
I have another
question,
short of the sun. As somebody who has made work on that's like digital in origin, but then presented physically, I wonder if you could speak to that a little bit, because I've like made screenshot work, but I struggle to know like if a work is like digital native, what does it look like when it's presented in real physical space? Or, like how do you manifest it?
Are you asking about this work, or how you think, or asking more in general how I feel about this? Both. I mean, I can maybe then start with the easier way. How this was presented is like what I did. I transferred a drawing on the wall. I painted it myself, oversized, so the whole wall is kind of that backdrop. And then on that wall will be mounted screens with that videos. And then I took that puzzle mats, I'm not sure, these tatami mats that people use in fitness studios, but also for kids. So I really much like that kind of reference. On the floor. And that invited people, to sit down, to stretch. I know it's very uncomfortable to sit like on the floor all the time. I'm sorry, also for your bodies now. But and that kind of tatami, it really made it happen. And people really, so in a way, the installation encouraged bodies to move. Let's say, so that was one translation. But I think, as Ashlee said in the beginning, I was also really thinking, or we were thinking, what is a good space on the internet and the YouTube? I'm not a YouTuber, and I think this is my first and last channel, and it for me is also more conceptual. Like that is, the YouTube is the gallery in a way, and I mean it's entirely not working the function of YouTube, because mostly you say, hey, how to fix iPhone 12, and then get the most efficient answers. And you don't look, hey, how can I digitize my dream, or how can I'm aware of this. No, it's like, but still I feel at least to me, it makes sense because it sits next to all these other how-to structures. And for me, that as a format is interesting. And also all the creativity. I like to come back to what is the beauty of all that space. Like I'm amazed as coming from video art also, like how great now everyone can do this great video. Like there's so much also good stuff there. So yeah. So it's also an homage to all these people out there who do great video. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Was that an answer? Because in general, I can't say I can only work. I think only specific from specific thing.
Well, it's interesting because like you were like, I wanted my audience to be able to stretch out and move their bodies, which is not something that the people producing these were able to do because they were like sitting at their computers. I assume anyway. So it's interesting. There's like
I mean, one thing maybe that speaks to that, is like so there's one rule in that conversations is you use just your hand, or like if you have a trackpad, use a trackpad, if you have and so on. But we don't start to use like the text typing. And I feel, so you still see the body movement very directly in all this. I think this is, because in the end I feel it's never separated, right? If you look at the phone and you're affected by something, we had this yesterday, we filmed something, you move your eyebrow because you're affected. So it's always, I think it's inseparable, these two.
I mean, also some of Gabriel's other work that I'm not just gonna randomly highlight also, if it's okay, is like, you know, I've seen him create methodologies or formats to get people to dance with them on the street without touching each other, or things like this. So the barriers that exist, be it the screen or the keyboard or the sitting or the social forms that exist between us, it's always sort of, for me, the material aspect of the work, how the work lives in the world, right? At least that's how I see you, right? It's always producing these ways of interaction that then have the material reality of like me sitting in this room with you. Like, this is the work, as much as that is the work, as much as that is the work, as much as that is the work. And I think that when we think about, and now I'm gonna get really art historical for like 3 seconds and then we'll end this talk, is that, you know, the history of like, you know, output or things like that, or the ways in which performance art has developed, or the definition of artists from like the 90s into the early 2000s as the Radicant generation by Nicolas Boyot. Like, all of these things kind of continuously lead to the idea of contemporary art being a layered thing, right? Art originally is a painting, and then it becomes not hyperrealism anymore. It becomes the impression of an artist. Then it becomes something that's photography and painting, because they start painting over top of photographs. And then you have people doing installation in relation to painting. So like, really, we've gotten to the point now where an output is something that is many, many things. So Gabriel, for me, doesn't sit so outside of what's happening with a lot of artists, where the art is maybe not just the object, it is even the Instagram about the object. All of it is the art. Yeah. Not to put pressures on your Instagram art. Okay, shall we end there? I feel some people are yawning and wanting to get up off the floor. Also, we have wine and we have cheese and we have bread, and you can continue to ask Gabriel questions in a less scary format. And thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Joining us.